Hello and welcome to Light Your Life. I'm your host, Tina Marie St.Cyr, and as always, we get to learn from the beautiful souls that share their stories here on Light Your Life so that you can take away your ounces of wisdom and apply their insights into your life and let your life shine. So today, our guest is a dear friend. Her name is Asma, and she is going to teach you some pivots that she did that have been magnificent, and I've actually got to watch them happen. So Asma Alsalameh, did I say that correctly?
Pretty close.
Pretty
It's
close.
Al-Salama, but
Alsalama.
I don't expect anybody to say it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, she was born to immigrant parents in Baton Rouge. Did say that right? Louisiana. Now resides in Houston, Texas. Asma is married with a 4-year-old daughter who is so cute and oftentimes finds herself on our videos together. And she gives people the gift of sight as an optometrist by the day. But in her free time, she enjoys being a coffee connoisseur and sharing her serial digital courses so that you can learn how to make money in the stock market. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight and today, so that you can learn how to be part of her stock market stories. You're going to want to learn about this. You're going to want to take notes and join in. And this is a community specifically for women who trade. So, gentlemen, if you're listening, you know ladies, and this is what you're going to share with them, the story today of Asma. Asma, thank you so much for being our guest today on Light Your Life.
I am so excited that you asked me to join. Thrilled, actually.
Me too. Well, I couldn't help but I've been watching you soar. And I remember, this timid, shy, questioning herself, scared, when we first started coaching, and you have just sprouted multiple versions of wings for the last many months. So we have to tell
Oh, you said it beautifully. Multiple versions of wings. Oh yeah, I was in a completely different place a year, 2 years ago even.
So tell us
Yeah,
about that. Where were you 2 years ago? What was life like back then?
yeah. So I would say about a year, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I was in a completely different state, emotionally, physically, mentally than I am today. So this was pre-pandemic. I was, I would say starting from 2017 to right up to the pandemic, I was an overworked, overstressed, overburdened, overpressured millennial. um, I am an optometrist by day, and I was a business owner. I had 3 offices. I had what we call in the optometry world corporate subleases, where I leased space from corporate opticals and ran them as my own business. So I had 2 that were open full time, 1 that was part time, and I also at some point accepted a job because I needed the regular income. And, I was in a place where I was having to work like 12, 13 days in a row and then take 1 day off. I was exhausted. I had, employees, I had associates, and I had a lot of payments. I had debts. I was, I felt like I could not keep up. I felt that I was always in this state where I was behind. But I was just going through the motions of life, right? I was exhausted all the time. I did not have I was in a brain fog when I came to talk to you for the first time. I was in a brain fog. I did not have the mental clarity to be able to see, which is funny because I'm an optometrist, so I help people see, but I did not have that mental clarity to be able to see that, things could be different, or even to just recognize that I was unhappy. And that I was miserable, and that this is not how it's supposed to be. I was watching some of my colleagues, some of them succeeding in what they were doing. And I just figured that I was supposed to be as well. And I didn't understand. So I just continue to push myself through the misery.
Yeah. And I remember when we first met, I was like, you're doing how much? You're doing what? I remember just mapping the course of your week. And, on this side going, this feels like insanity. And, we have to peel things back in order to start realizing what would you truly love, and then having the faith to even get there. Can I have the life I truly love? And is there a way out of this madness? And you're willing. You were willing. That's what it takes, is like, I need to reach out for help.
Oh
And
yeah.
then, find that course and know that you're not alone through that, unveiling of your destiny, which we're going to talk about today. And so what had you reach out for coaching? You did say, you were very stressed and overwhelmed, but what was that one thing? What did you say? I want this to happen. This is why I want coaching.
Yeah. So, and actually I want to add to that is despite how much I was working, and I was working not only lots of days, but I was working long days because when the patient hours were done, I was having to do other stuff with, payroll and bookkeeping and insurances and things like that. So I wish I could say that my bank account reflected the amount that I was working. And it was funny because it's like, the more I was working, the less money I would have. Like literally, the more hours I was putting in, the more ratchet my bank account, all of our accounts would look. So,
by the way, I want to pause there because I think that is truly evidence that you're not on your path. So if anybody else is in that place where you're working your tush off, and you're thinking you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and you're just putting more effort into it, and your bank account is not reflective, like Asma said, of the amount of work you're putting in, that is a true sign, big red flashing lights saying you are not on the right path. Would you say so, Asma?
Absolutely, Tina. And you know what? I wish I knew that. I actually didn't know that. I thought like I wasn't working enough. I wasn't being efficient with my time, which I wasn't being efficient with my time. But I thought it had to do with the amount of work I was putting in. That something was wrong with the work I'm putting in. Mm-hmm. So I wish I knew that. I agree.
And we learned that, didn't we? Coaching.
Yeah. So going back right. So absolutely. And I was stuck in that, I was stuck in that phase of life, for years. And, looking back on it now, sometimes I want to say, wow, that was some wasted time, but it wasn't wasted time because I had to go through those things to, bring me to where I am now, to bring me to some light. So, pun intended. So, right. So, and I will tell you, at some point in 2019, I had accepted an employed position. I still had my offices, I still had my businesses, but I accepted a job opportunity. It was actually going back to an old job that I had, and the reason why is because I needed this. I needed the regular income because I was struggling on my own. It was up and down, and it actually. It proved to be a good decision to make. It was a wise decision to make. This was the end of 2019. So what happened later on in 2020, right? So I don't have to tell anybody that, but I remember sometime in March, I think the date was like March 19th or March 16th. So if I wasn't working at my employed job, which was like a 3 to 4 day a week commitment, I was working in one of my offices. So I happened to be in my employed position. And I was getting a manicure during my 40-minute lunch break. That's when I did things. I did things during lunch breaks because I had no other time otherwise. And I got a text from my boss, my wonderful boss, actually. And he was like, hey, go home. We are closing up the offices. And I will keep you updated. It was, basically something like that kind of.
Shutdown was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Shutdown was happening. And I think at that point, nobody really knew what was about to happen, right? I didn't know. I'm sure my boss didn't know.
We could not have predicted. In fact, March 16th was the day that I shut my offices as well. That's kind of ironic.
Oh, wow. Yes.
I told everybody we're going to be working from home now, and let's see what goes. I released everybody early. I said, get to the grocery store, go to Target, go someplace, get all the stuff you need to stock up. We're going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. So yeah, and I wonder how many people got, a similar text or a similar phone call on that day. Mm-hmm. And I remember just having confusion, but let me tell you how I felt in that moment, Tina. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was so relieved. Like I was I don't want to say I was happy, but I was like, it was like somebody took this weight off my shoulders. And again, I didn't know what was coming, but the only thing I could think about at that moment was, wow, I really want to be able to sleep in the next day. That's the only thing I was thinking about. I was physically exhausted. I was tired. I think I had worked like a 15-day stretch. And I was like, oh my God, go home early, go to sleep. Like, don't wake up tomorrow and come to work. I mean, I still had my offices operating, but the next day I was supposed to come down. So that was really my feeling. Like I was just relieved. I was so excited about being able to sleep. So I was like, okay, keep me updated. And I went home.
Yeah.
Um,
That's another sign, by the way, if you're an entrepreneur out there, a business owner, and you find yourself in a place where you're overwhelmed and you know you're overworked and you're not being efficient, and you possibly, I've been there too, where you have that thought, oh, great, I get to sleep in today. And it's almost like a pass. You get a pass, like something happens. I've also had some clients say that, whenever a client cancels something, you go, oh, thank God they canceled. What? As business owners, we don't want to hear that. Oh, thank God they canceled, because our time is stretched so much. That's why.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God. That's interesting that you say that, because, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a podcast. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention another
Yes,
podcast.
you can. Go
It's
ahead.
called The Happiness Project, I think. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
I
new.
I've listened to it. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so the professor, I don't want to say her name wrong, but she's a happiness professor, which is interesting because during the pandemic, she offered her course online for free. And normally she teaches it, I think it's Stanford. And in one of her podcast episodes, she says that as a surprise, intentionally, she likes to cancel her class in the morning, just send her students out saying, my class is canceled today. And she's like, some of the responses that she gets, she'll have like students like, crying and being like, thank you so much. I needed this time.
Right.
So
yeah. And so time, if we're ever that strung out on time, then that's another one of those red flashing lights that we need to start writing our life. I mean, we need to really take control of our life and ask ourselves. There's a question that we ask here at Bonfire. And as a coach, I ask my clients, and I asked you this question. I did. It's, well, what would you love? What would you love? If you could rewrite, reset button, cha-ching, reset, what would you love? There was something that you said, and I remember it was on your intake, it was like a hobby, or it was like a spare time thing. Something you loved was the stock market. Do you remember asking me, do you have anybody that that teaches stuff about the stock market?
I do, absolutely. And so great pivot into the next thing. So, as work was starting to slow down, although we shut down in March, we were slowing down in about February, March. I remember like watching, as I get ready in the morning, I'll have the news on. And I remember watching these headlines about, the stock market falling, stocks hitting lows and things like that. And here's the thing, I had never, before 2020, I had never really owned any stocks. I mean, I have passive accounts and stuff like that, but I was always, I loved flipping, I guess, for lack of a better term. So like I could remember, when I was in high school, the day I got my driver's license as a 16-year-old, I used to love going to like, TJ Maxx and Dillard's and going to the clearance section and buying this, clearance stuff and then selling it on eBay. And so that was something that I had always enjoyed doing, buying low, selling high. And even as an adult, I was doing that with like designer bags. I would do that with Louis Vuitton. So this was something that I always, it gave me like a thrill to do, right? So when I was listening to these headlines early in 2020, and this is before the shutdown, this is before we were sent home, about the market coming down and the market crashing, I was like, well, would it now be a good time to buy? Like, I don't know anything about finance and economics, but I know a lot about buying low and selling high. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. So that was kind of my first, like aha moment. And so shortly after that, I opened up just one of those accounts with one of those commission-free brokers. I put some money in it. And during the time that we were slow in my office or in, at work, I would just start buying and selling and consuming content on YouTube and things like that. And so now and then after that, I was sent home, right? And so 2 weeks after I was sent home is when I got a phone call from my boss. And it was actually unexpected. It's silly of me to think it was unexpected, but it was unexpected. And this phone call said, I thought he was going to tell me to come back to work. But this phone call said that I was being furloughed from my job. from the job that I thought was so stable, from my cushion, from my safety net. And I was, it sounds silly, but I really wasn't expecting it, Tina.
Yeah.
So this time I was not relieved like I was in that first phone call, but I started to panic. I was stressed out. I was freaked out. I was like, I'm not prepared for this, you know? I know I had to close my offices. My husband is was in a new car business, and that was all shut down. And I was like, wow, like, can we survive with no income coming in? How long am I going to be able to survive with no income coming in?
Right. That's a big question many of us ask. And not only through a pandemic, through any type of a crisis or things that happen that we have not adequately planned for or prepared for. So that's so many people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what'd you do?
Yeah. So during this time, back to trading, what I was doing at the time, I don't know if you're in the market, Tina. I know you do a little bit of trading, but I was doing things like, I had like charted a pattern. I created a little chart and pattern for these stocks that I was following there was a lot of volatility. So they would hit these lows and then they would hit these highs the day after. So I discovered that I could buy Tesla stock. At the time, it was, it went down to like $400 a share, 420. So I would buy a couple of shares of Tesla one day, and then the next day, and 2 days after, I would sell them for $100 a share more. And I kept doing that. And I did that with Tesla, and I did that with Apple. So, at some point I was like, well, hey, like, this is actually making money. Like, I could not believe that I could sit down, in wearing whatever I wanted, sitting in my office or on my phone, typing and make money that way. So, I couldn't believe how powerful something like this could be. And not only that, but it made me happy. Like I was enjoying it. I felt like this is something I was really good at. So yes. Absolutely. So it gave me a sense of hope to think that, like, okay, can I learn this? Can I build on this skill? Can I do something with this, until things get figured out?
And you decided you wanted to, I know we coach together, and then there's other people, we have coaches in our lives that specifically have great genius input on certain areas. And you found someone that you took course from and helped you feel more stable and confident in pursuing the stock market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked with, I want to say, like, my coaching was like a team effort, right? And you were a huge part of that. So I actually came to you, was it April? Was it May? It was shortly after I was furloughed from my job. Yeah. And I was like, I was
before, and then you came back. Yeah. After the furlough.
Yes. So during this time, I also identified that I needed to, now that I got to sit at home, like sit my butt at home during the pandemic, and identify like how, unhappy I was where I was doing what I was doing. But, I discovered some other things that make money that I actually made me happy, that I was actually good at. I worked with you. I hired you. I also worked in a group coaching community. And I started taking classes. I took various classes with trading in the stock market. And during this time, I had made the decision that it was kind of a hard decision to make, but I made the decision that things needed to change with, my own business in optometry. Right. I just decided one day, like, this is not for me. And just because it worked so well for somebody else, for my colleagues, it doesn't mean that it's also my path.
That's part of what helped me. That's enlightenment right there, Asma. Because sometimes we compare ourselves to other people so much, and we think that, if only we do what they do, and if only we had this magic bean, right, then it'll turn around. And we don't look at the struggle that we're in and tell the truth about the struggle, that maybe the struggle is pointing us into a different direction, and we're not doing what we would truly love.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that now, because, going back to podcasts, I was listening to, Gabrielle Bernstein's new podcast, and she said something in the first episode. She said that, oh gosh, I wrote it down.
Obstacles or detours in the right direction.
How did you know?
Because I know Gabby
Absolutely.
Bernstein. I love Gabby.
Obstacles are detours in the right direction. I mean, that was the story of my life. Okay, that's my pandemic story. Optical, yeah. So that's really what what was happening. As I was hitting these challenges and they were moving me in completely different ways. But in one of the coaching programs that I had joined, I was tasked with taking a strengths test. It was one of the things that we had to do in this group program that I was in, a Clifton strengths test, and it was. I'm sure you're familiar with it, right? And there's different types of strengths tests. And I had never done anything like that before. And some of the results of that test were just really enlightening for me. You use the word enlightening, but that's probably the best word I can think of. I realized during that time is I was really good at strategic thinking. It came up as like a top strength for me. I was really good at ideation. I was really good at influencing, at, making I guess what I think of influencing is being in a mentorship kind of role. These were things that I was good at. And what was funny is that I was really bad at execution. I actually have zero execution strengths in my entire strengths profile. I was really bad at organization. I have zero organization skills. And that really was a light bulb going off. And this sounds so cliche, but it was a light bulb going off because in my role in the business that I was in, and as a business owner in optometry, I was struggling because my responsibilities were all in the things that I was not good at. Okay. I was not good at execution. And I was not good at organization, but I was responsible for all of that stuff. And that's why it was just so painful for me.
Overwhelming.
And what I was really good at are things that I was not doing very much of as a business owner. I liked making connections with people and I liked talking to people. So I like sitting in a room, with a patient examining eyes, but I wasn't even doing much of that. I was hiring other people to do that because I was on the business end. So, and with that knowledge, that's when I realized this is why I was really enjoying trading. And that's what I was doing. I was swing trading because it's a lot of strategy. It's strategic thinking. And that was something I was really good at. I was good at identifying patterns. So for anyone out there who is struggling in what they were doing, I highly recommend, number one, I highly recommend you get with a coach. Number two, I highly recommend that you identify what you're good at and what you're bad at. And this is why I was struggling, whereas my colleague may have been thriving in the same role. And I did not understand that. I didn't understand that we were not going to have the same strengths profile or weakness profiles. I thought I was inadequate somehow.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that so much. That's so helpful. And so taking your stock passion, the stock market passion, you had this brilliant idea to create an open forum in Facebook for ladies who trade in the market. And so could you speak about the stock market stories? Where was that inspiration for you and where has it grown?
Yep. Oh, thank you for asking. So, and I know I get so excited talking about all of this that I'm like,
because it's your passion.
Absolutely. So during this time, we were home, right? So we were cut off from the rest of the world. So I was going online for a lot of my knowledge. I was in Facebook groups. I was in what's called Discord groups, trading Discord groups. I was in these Telegram groups, free communities as well as paid communities. And one thing I have found is a lot of these spaces were really dominated by men. The moderators were men, the admin were men, the people leading the community were men. And there was this culture of that was not very friendly to, I guess we can call people who are newbies or beginners or maybe more humble or don't have the background. I noticed that there was a pattern of people asking a question, an inexperienced person asking a question, a very legit question. And they would be felt that they didn't know what they were doing or that they were stupid. And that was a common theme in a lot of these groups. They were messy. And I was like, okay, this is like, I'm going to create the group that I could not find because I could not find one judgment-free group where I felt comfortable, as a community of support, right? At wanting to learn about, good deals in the market or even sharing what I knew, because I was like, I don't know who's going to tell me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
And that's, there's trepidation there in any form if we want to join a community and be welcomed as a novice, because we all begin, there's the beginning point, and beginning doesn't mean that as soon as you begin, now you're a wise person or an expert. It just doesn't happen that way. It takes tripping and falling and failing and learning. And so novices that put themselves out there courageously to learn from masters, to learn from experts is what we want. We want that truth telling, and please accept me because I do not know, at least I've had the courage to ask. And so I'm with you. I'm also a birder. And so whenever I did that, I'm new at photography of birds. Now, if you've ever tried to take a picture of a bird, it's hard because they move and they move fast. And so, being a new photographer, whenever we're on those forums and you humbly ask, well, what are you shooting with? So you could start learning what lens to have, what camera body, what speed, what aperture, what are you using, what lighting, that type of stuff. Very often we're met with the same type of, ego of you should already know, or, if you were a real birder, you would have known this. And I was like, oh, Lord God, get off of your
Yes,
platform.
Absolutely.
So I'd write down the notes. I'd write down the names of the people that were the jerks, and I'd go, okay, so I'm not going to ask you a question again. Okay. But what I love is that you created a forum for ladies that are new, or at least are learning from each other. We're not going to shame each other. We're not going to embarrass each other. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to celebrate each other. What I really love is that you allow celebration in this forum. So I know I interrupted, but go ahead. Tell us more about stock market stories on Facebook.
Yeah. So, that's exactly what I did. I was like, I'm going to create the space where woman, because what I noticed the pattern was the woman didn't have the voice, right? It was rare to see a woman admin in one of the communities. So I created a space, and it was for those who identify as non-males, the best way to define it. Right. And when I started it, it was really just to support community. And I put it on my Facebook page, and ironically, one of my friends and a friend dash neighbor, her name is Stacy. She saw my message and she was like, hey, I didn't know you trade in the stock market. And I was like, oh, it's a new hobby for me. And she was like, oh, I've been doing this, forever. I make money trading these stocks. And I'm like, great, join me, be my co-admin, help guide us in this community. So we created a Facebook community, and it was just a support group for women. And it, and at the time, that's really all I envisioned it to be. We share our daily trades with each other. We share any good deals we find with each other, any resources. And it was, it made a huge difference for me in my life. To be on both ends, to be on the receiving end, because there were people in this community like Stacy who had more experience, who were happy to share, as well as on the giving end, because I had been taking classes and I had been reading, and I was profitable. I was actually, I was a profitable trader. Sure, I made lots of mistakes, but I was able to show that I was making money on, at least doing a couple trades a week. So it felt really good to experience both ends of that and to be the leader of this community.
Yes. And you've done such a great job. I want to give you a major amount of kudos. I love that you have, there's like templates or themes that you do, and you've stayed so consistent, in order to, especially in a group that we're talking about money, because money has a lot of triggers in it with ladies and men, anyone, whenever we're being vulnerable about our finances. What I love is that you're creating this environment where we can trust, where we can be truthful with one another. We don't have to get it right. It's not like a showboating. It's not like, look at me. It's let's get real about where we are and simply support each other. And every day you have the stock market story. So you have the date, and you say what your trades were and what you did. And if you came out on the bottom side, you're like, hey, came out on the bottom side. But, this is what I've learned from it.
It's very much a sisterhood. And I learned a lot about, I learned a lot of unintended things from forming this community. So over time, as our community started growing and as people started to add people, I would get a lot of requests for education, like, hey, can you show me how you figured this out?
Right.
You're saying that, Apple is really risky right now. Why are you saying that? So I started to get a lot of, requests for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. From our members.
And go ahead. I'm going to say how many people you have now. You have 2.8K, which is really great because you started when?
Oh, I don't even think it's been a year. What are we now? We're in May. Oh, it has been a year. I think we started in April, May. It's probably exactly 1 year.
This is awesome.
And it's really just people adding people. And, we don't do any paid advertising. No. I'm going to call this promotion, this podcast interview, but we really don't do much of that. It's just people adding.
Very organic.
Absolutely.
And I remember you reached out whenever we were coaching and you said, okay, I have an idea. People are asking me about this and I think I need to teach, but oh my goodness, who am I? What do I do? I remember that call, can you take us to that space again? Do you remember?
Yes. And you know what? I remember that call too, Tina. So what I did, because we were having all of these, people came up to us and they really wanted to learn from us. And it was really interesting because I had no, professional background or anything like that. Right. I don't even know what FINRA stands for, but what I realized is they were coming to me, they were asking me because we had this relationship, we had this connection. They were watching me every day. I was being very honest about how much I was making or how much I was losing. If it was a bad week, I would tell them I lost money this week. And so they didn't care that I didn't have this background, right. And I didn't, have a teaching school or anything like that. And I realized how powerful it was to be able to, create a community of trust and connection, that people were coming to you and asking you to be the source of information, to be the source of education.
To guide them. Right. To guide them.
To guide. Yes, absolutely.
And you're a great guide. And I remember that trepidation.
And so I came to Tina actually, and I said, I had this idea. Uh-huh. Yep. I was like, I have this idea. We want to bring in some type of education because there's clearly a demand, clearly a need for it. But my original idea was I was going to find people. I was going to find the experts to come to my community and teach. That was the original thing. I was like, I know this person. I know that person. A friend of a friend teaches this. And Tina was like, okay, full stop, and I thought I had an awesome idea. I was like, isn't my idea awesome? And you were like, no. And I'm like,
hold on a second. Let's think through this. I don't think I said no. I said, let's hold multiple perspectives here. Yeah.
You were nicer about that, but that's, that's what I heard. I heard no. And so my idea wasn't as awesome as I thought it was. And so what you told me in that conversation is, why aren't you teaching this? Why aren't you going to be showing them? And I was like, me? I'm an optometrist. I have a degree in biology and optometry. What do you mean me? I literally just started trading yesterday. And she was like, well, you make money, right? And I was like, well, yeah, I make money. And she was like, okay. So just show people what you're doing that makes money. And I'm like, okay. So I have to thank you for that, Tina, because I think just that conversation that we had was life-changing for me. Just you telling me that I should be in this role of guiding and teaching the community that I built, really. It brought me here to this place today. So I have to thank you for that.
You are welcome. Thanks for listening. Right. I just say what the energy's feeling, because it only made sense that you hold the hands of the people who are asking you to hold their hands. Right. And not enter and bring in anybody that they don't have that trust and rapport with. They have the trust and rapport with you. They've watched you. They've watched your struggles. You're very vulnerable. You say your ups and downs and all arounds and everything. And they're going, we trust you. We want you to guide us. And that's the truth, is we're only ever 2 to 3 steps ahead of those people that we can help. And oftentimes we think we must be experts. We must have some kind of huge degree on the wall. We must have gone through some trials and tribulations that prove our efficacy and our expertness. The truth is that isn't. It's just 2 or 3 steps ahead builds that rapport. And it's enough to reach out our hand that we have the length to be able to hold hands with those people that we're in community with. So where's that come? You started your first course, and I remember I was on it. So take our listeners to the place where you had your first course, because I remember you were shaky knees through that.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say what you just said right now is so powerful. Absolutely. So powerful. It's actually more important than being an expert, is to have established yourself as a trustworthy guide that you have a connection with. And so yeah, the first, I didn't call it a seminar, I didn't call it a course, but we called it an introduction immersion seminar with your guidance. So we put that together. I put that together with 2 of my admins, and the whole purpose of this seminar that I brought to my community was to show a very basic foundation method, a very basic strategy. And I called it my bread and butter strategy. Right. And it was, I was taking the best of the things that I learned from here and there, and just kind of put it together and what we could fit in 2 hours. I wanted it to be really simple, and I marketed it as being something really simple, because I know I can't do like really complicated math, and I don't like long words, and I don't, things like that. So my goal was to make it, simple, but my goal was also to make it concrete and to put something together in 2 hours that somebody would be able to sit through it. And just from what they got in that 2 hours, they would be able to turn around, apply it, and make some money just from the information they got in that 2 hours. So myself and 2 co-admins worked together to put this presentation together. And we did some practicing, we did rehearsing, and all it was, it was nothing fancy, but it was concrete and tangible. And we rolled this out in March. March, actually. So not too long ago. Today we're in May. So we rolled the first one out in March. And I remember talking to my co-admins, and I remember telling Tina that, hey, I hope we can get about 15 to 20 people from our group to sign up to make this worth our efforts. Yeah. To make it, to pay the incorporation fee and to pay the attorney.
Right. And I remember you wanted to charge a really low fee, and we pushed on that one because I wanted you to retain the value of what your information was going to be to your audience. So we found some middle grounds there. And so your goal was 10 to 15 to break even, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the outturning? What was the outpouring of love and affection for you, because you did guide so many people?
Yeah. So and thank you for encouraging me to raise my prices, because this was another thing. I felt so uncomfortable, charging anything other than, what I consider to be cheap. And so, you encouraged me to still charge a valuable, still give a lot of value, but charge something that was more worthwhile. So we rolled it out, and we had an early bird special for $99. And in our early bird special, we ended up getting 74 people who signed up. And, we had, again, no paid advertising or promotion or anything like that. This was all done within our Facebook community. At that point, we were under 2,000 members, right? And obviously just a fraction of that would be active. Mm-hmm. And after the early bird special, I believe we got 10 more. And then we ended up selling the replay after we went live. And so after all was said and done, we sold 92 tickets for this live 2-hour seminar. And it was way beyond my expectations, way beyond. And I can't even say we hustled to promote this or anything like that. It was just within our Facebook community. So it was amazing. It was really worth it. Right. And we had no testimonials to go off of. We had no, no previous class or previous seminar to build off of. This was literally like, we were kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah. What I love is that you trusted and followed the course. And I was on that course, and you've produced more since. And so for those that are listening, for the first time here and learning about stock market stories, you want to find this group on Facebook. And what I love is that you trusted. And the beautiful thing, Asma, is that you stay humble through the whole thing. You've stayed humble with your group. You stayed humble in your life. You take us on the course of journey of not just you as learning the stock market and applying it. And yes, you're coming on the upside, which is beautiful to watch and see and witness, but also you as a mother and you as a wife and you as a doctor and you as a daughter in this journey that you're in, and you avail yourself to us so humbly and beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I mean, and I have to say, I mean, the power of working with a coach. You guys, when I hired Tina initially, it was not really for this. It was, I mean, this was kind of like a side thing that I wanted to do, but it was really to help me clean up my business in optometry, was to help me clean up my messes there. That was really what I came to you for. And, with our work together and with some of the work that I did with group coaching, I'm in a place where I feel like I am meant to be. Like, I feel like I'm working in my genius. I mean, that first launch was, we grossed over 10K. We had another course the month after. It was also, we grossed over 10K. I mean, this is 2 months after I incorporated the group as a business. Yes. We're now doing the introduction seminar for a second time. So that will be in about a week and a half and 2 weeks. So, the testimonials that I got afterwards, I mean, I was in tears. I was crying at how, the beautiful things that people said who sat with us for 2 hours. And, some of the things that they said were, I wish I had printed some of this out, but, one thing that struck with me is people said, "You're so relatable. Like, if you can do this, I feel like I can do it too." And that was really like my purpose, is I wanted to break it down, for the people who were kind of like me, didn't have a background. And also throughout this, I realized that, believe it or not, it was almost an advantage that I did not have this background, that I was not an expert on paper, that I did not have this formal training. It came to be an advantage, which is crazy to think, but it made my community feel more of a connection with me, right, because they felt like they could relate.
You're real. And that's what we teach here at Bonfire is above the line. And the first, order of being for above the line is love and connection. And then you grow together and you contribute together, and you have built an amazing community that's doing that every single day. And so I applaud you. And so what's next? I mean, in fact, before I ask that question, I know that you have now this mantra that you want the audience to hear, is that if they have a skill that they love and a passion, it can be monetized, right?
Absolutely. So I believe, and this is one thing I learned with coaching, thanks to coaching, I believe everybody has a skill, no matter who you are. I don't care who you are. Everyone has a skill or has a passion that can somehow be monetized, and monetized, authentically and true to yourself, and in a way that doesn't feel, like a salesperson,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so, and I've done that. Right. And I'm living it now, and so I believe everybody has that. And I'm in a coaching program with other people, and I'm seeing people do it every day. I'm seeing people who are, lawyers by profession or dentists by profession, but, they're selling their art, or, they're selling their comedy, or just, so I'm inspired all the time, every day, by watching what other people do. I absolutely believe that everybody has a skill and everybody has a passion that can be monetized.
That's awesome. And so where are you now on your goal so we can support you?
Well, thank you so much. So yeah, Stock Market Stories is growing. We are in the education space. We have rolled out a options course, and which is more of an advanced strategy. So I taught an introduction course. Right after mine, we had an options course. I am repeating the introduction to trading course. And, we are looking at what else we can bring to our community. We are listening to our community. Because we know that they're looking to me and to my admins as a source of guidance, right? I'm not the only person in the world that's going to teach an introduction to trading class, right? But they don't that's one thing I realized is, the people that I have a connection with, they would rather hear it from me, or they would rather
You
take it from me.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing for me when I looked for a class, when I looked for a trading course to take, there were a lot of options, but I really wanted to choose somebody that I felt connected with, that I felt aligned with. That's how I choose my teachers and my mentors. So now that I have this understanding, I definitely want to be a source of education, or have Stock Market Stories be a source of education, to provide quality education at a value, to make it accessible, and to make trading easy. So we had, for example, NFTs are really big right now, and they're very new. So we had a wonderful member of our community put together a great presentation for the benefit of our members. It was done exclusively in our community. Her name is Sarah Fernandez, and she's also somebody who has pivoted in the pandemic. And, cryptocurrency is huge now. Everybody's talking about crypto. So we want to look into bringing in some kind of, crypto education in our community. So Stock Market Stories, we really want to grow it to be this source of education.
Thank you
basically.
So much. Thank you so much. And so how can they find you? I think we've mentioned it a million times at least, but I want them to definitely have this in their minds and go find you on Facebook, right?
Absolutely. Stock Market Stories is on Facebook. And right now, that's really all we're doing. Now I'm also on Facebook. So I am happy to, accept any DMs from anybody. I mean, if any guys are listening to this and they're like, oh, I'm bummed, I'm happy to, talk stocks and answer questions. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Asma Alsalameh, and my group is Stock Market Stories on Facebook. And so we keep all of the, events that are happening in that group. So.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for your time today, Asma. It's been amazing. I've enjoyed so much watching you bloom and grow, and all the contribution you're bringing to the ladies that follow you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this platform. Thank you for being in my life. And thank you for guiding me through this and giving me, really giving me the confidence and making me feel so empowered to take these actions. So thank you so much, Tito.
You are so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You have been part of our audience today for Light Your Life. We ask that you share this podcast with those people that you care about, and subscribe. You can find us on iTunes and all the other platforms out there for podcasts. And you can go to bonfirecoaching.com. If you're interested in having a coach, we have complimentary consultations right there on the front page. Don't stop. Don't hesitate. Jump right now. This has been Light Your Life. I'm Tina Marie St.Cyr. Until next time, have a great day.